Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. It's Careyann Golliver, America's franchise matchmaker and founder of Franchise Logic. And today we're continuing our online event of It Has Never Been a Better Time to Go into Business in 2021. Start a business, buy a business, maybe even go the franchising route. And as you know, all my panel guests are going to be talking about sneak peek things to think about prior to taking the leap. And I'm so excited that we have Ty Brewster here with Locate. He is a real estate broker and he's our guest today. Welcome, Ty.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Now, Ty focuses his efforts on fast-paced growth of the franchise industry. And as a provider of real estate, he supports some of the fastest growing franchise groups in the United States. Care to share any names, Ty?
Oh, well, of course. We work with a group called ISI Elite Training out of North Carolina.
Wonderful.
We work with the folks from Benjamin Moore Paints around the country. Everyone's familiar with them. We work with Rosati's Pizza, which is out of Chicago, Illinois, a 56-year-old deep dish pizza concept that makes me hungry every time I talk.
Oh, you're making me hungry.
But yeah, we work with a number of clients. Perspire Sauna Studio is a fast growing young brand that's 10 years young, I guess, young to me in the franchising industry, and they are doing some great work. So yeah, we basically support our clients to help them find space and negotiate leases all around the country. So
nationwide.
Yes, nationwide. We work in all 50 states and haven't done anything in Puerto Rico yet, but I have been to Puerto Rico to look for sites before. But yeah, we are here to help and basically organize and normalize that real estate process that comes at the beginning. Every franchisee that's working with a franchisor that needs physical space, that's always a difficult part of the process, right? Sometimes we're left on our own to handle that. And my team, we've got a lot of experience. We do hundreds of these processes every year. And so we just help those franchisees, serve them to organize that process in a better way.
Yes, excellent. Your services are well valued and needed, a vital component of having a successful business. It's all about location, location, location. So Ty, you work diligently staying up to date on the retail trends, right, and markets, large and small, all around the country, and as an active participant of the International Franchise Association, you're of their membership committee, and you're a certified franchise executive yourself. So you really know and can really relate to the pain and frustration of a franchisor. And you've really designed your services to alleviate those frustrations.
That's really what I do is we are franchise people. We work almost exclusively with franchise brands, helping their franchisees navigate this confusion that happens at the beginning. As you buy your franchise, then you go into this holding pattern that can be very frustrating and difficult. We understand the franchise process in depth. Like you said, I'm a CFE, I'm a certified franchise executive through the IFA. I spend all my time focused on franchising. And our goal is to help that process to be as easy as it can be. And that doesn't mean it's always easy, but we want to support our clients at no cost to help them through that process and make it smoother than it would be otherwise.
Right, because I think you could probably agree with me, Ty, that 99% of the people that buy a retail-based franchise have never been involved in commercial real estate.
And if they have, it's one-off. It's maybe one time every 5 years or 10 years, or maybe they've done that 5-6 times in their life even. That certainly doesn't make you an expert. And having the advice of somebody who sees a lease every day of their lives is just a way we can provide some support, help our clients to make the right decisions. We're not making the decisions for our clients. We're not taking that responsibility on our shoulders, but we are providing you the best advice, understanding what you're going through as a franchisee, and just making sure that you have the right advice at the right time to not get caught up and get taken advantage of by the adversary in these transactions, which is the landlord. And look, landlords almost invariably have more experience than my clients because they're building buildings and leasing space every day. And my clients generally are doing this very seldom. So we want to make sure that you have the proper tools and information to get the very best deals and to understand when a landlord's being reasonable or not.
Yeah, and I think, would it be fair to say that in a way, you're kind of the conduit? You kind of are more aggressive with the landlord. You can kind of play bad cop where the franchisee who's going to be the tenant can be the good cop, because we realize that the franchisee is going to have an ongoing relationship with the landlord, right? So you can kind of go in there and say, look, you can put on your negotiation hat and really go to bat for them and make sure they're getting, equality when it comes to signage, when it comes to rent, when it comes to those sorts of things, because you guys are a
Rent,
powerhouse,
tenant
right?
improvement, exactly. And I say that to my clients all the time. Look, if you need to throw me under the bus with this landlord and say, man, I'm glad we got through that lease process because Ty was such a bugger about it. He just really pushed and pushed and pushed. And I thought everything was great, but Ty just wouldn't let go of certain things. That's exactly what I want. My team should be taking the heat for that because again, once the lease is signed, I'm going to sit back and I'm out of it. And my clients are going to have a long-term relationship with that landlord. So if they can always point to me as being the tough nut in that negotiation, I'm very happy with that because that's what I'm known for in the industry by landlords all around the country. And I do that every day for my clients. And without that, I think my clients just aren't going to get the things that they need. And at the end of the day, it is hard enough to do this, even with me involved and my team involved in this process. But to do it alone without that level of experience is it's just that much worse.
Yeah. And, let's rewind the tape a little bit. You'd mentioned, they're going to go into a hurry up and wait stage, right? So if somebody chooses to buy a retail based franchise, from the time, that they open or pay for their, sign their franchise agreement, pay their franchise fee, to when they actually have a lease signed pre-COVID versus now today, what's the difference?
I would tell you that pre-COVID, I think that there was less inventory in certain categories. So for example, it was very hard to find a 1,200 or 1,500 square feet. So these small little strip centers that have, the hair cutter right next to the Allstate insurance guy, and then, the nail salon.
Yeah, anchored by a supermarket.
These were very full, and you would have to really get aggressive to get into those. And I think rents were kind of escalating a little bit. I think that post-COVID, there's a little bit more volume. There's a little bit more availability in those, but the landlords are not moving as my clients would have hoped with their rents and their rent requirements. Many of my clients would expect that those those costs, those rents would drop post COVID. And we have not really seen that. We've seen landlords being very consistent on their asking rents and not negotiating down below pre-COVID rents. But I think the availabilities are a little bit better. And so I think over time, we might be on a downward trend, but we just haven't seen that catch yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so when I'm working with candidates and taking them through the journey of exploring franchises, it's really all about timing. So if someone has negatively been impacted by COVID and they need something yesterday, they should not be looking at retail based because retail based it's a beast, right? I mean, it's a journey in all on itself. So, I would say 800, as small as 800 to maybe 4,000 square feet of space pre-COVID. Would it be fair to say it was typically from the time they signed and bought to when they actually had a lease signed to a grand opening would be 9 to 12 months. But then if it was something larger, like a salon suite, for example, it could be, or an end cap of a full-blown restaurant. We're talking possibly 2 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly longer than that 9 to 12 months. But, to me, it has a lot to do with the motivation of the tenant. And again,
Sure.
how there's a lot more sticking points in a lease for a 6,000 square foot user versus a 1,500 square foot user. There's a lot less opportunity for a 6,000 square foot user. So those are all going to exacerbate the timeline and extend the timeline. But I think post COVID, I think that we have a lot more activity that's just now starting. We've been a lot busier over the last 60 to 90 days than we were 6 months ago, for sure. Towards the end of the COVID, 2020.
Right.
So you're going to have to accept the timeline is not just on you as a business owner. You also have the other side that you're dealing with that is the landlord. And some landlords are faster than others. Some landlords are harder to work with than others. And we just have to accept that you don't control that property, the landlord does. And so we need to be aware of those nuances as we're going through this process. And it could take you a lot longer than you want it to take. I've got some clients that are quite anxious, and they need to accept that I don't control the speed with which we get a letter of intent response. Or right now we're waiting on one site to be surveyed where we need to have an architect go in and measure this and that. Well, that's got to be done by the landlord because we don't want to have to pay for that. So if it takes 3 weeks for the landlord to do it, we just need to accept that that's going to happen unless we want to pay for it. And then we can have it done on our timetable, right? But we have to realize that when we're working in a business where we need real estate, we do have that other side to deal with, the landlords. And those guys, they've got their own timelines.
They go on their own pace. And I don't know about you, Ty, but it blows my mind that the masses of landlords out there are never in a hurry, even if they have empty spaces. They're just on their own kind of timeline that is never synced up to. And of course, when someone buys a business, they're excited. They want to get going. We want to get this open. And this, landlord is just taking their time, or they're out of the country for 3 months or whatever it may be, right? It can be a hair pulling scenario, but I think, what you would agree is that it's patience is important because you don't want to rush this process because your location is the biggest piece of your marketing for your business when you have a retail-based business.
That's correct. And if you want to be open by this August, what I say to my clients in many cases is, look, if we do a 5-year lease, I'm going to give you 5 Augusts. It might not be this one, but I'll give you 5. So you'll be open 5 Augusts. I'm not going to guarantee you which ones they're going to be, because we do have a timeline that we've got to adhere to with the landlords and with the cities, with permitting, there's a lot of people involved in this process that are going to delay this, and we do not have total control. So we have to accept that others can control the timeline outside of what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it requires a lot of patience. So I'm a franchisee and I get an offer. Well, I need to get going, so I'm going to sign that offer and get down the road. Is that a mistake?
That is a mistake. So if you get an offer from a landlord and you do not push back on the parts of that offer that are important to you, then you are leaving money on the table. And it might be that you're not a big fan of money, and that's fine. And if that's the case, you're not one of my clients, because every one of my clients certainly wants to have
Every penny counts.
the lowest possible rent, right? The most tenant improvement allowance that they can get. And we're going to negotiate for all of those things. And if we don't negotiate for all of those things, these landlords are not offering it up. No landlord's going to come to you and say, here's the best offer that's possibly available to you.
Right.
They're going to say, this is what I think I can get you to take. And if you take it, they're pretty happy. I would suggest that you push back on a number of those items, that you understand what your thresholds are, and that leads your negotiation, as opposed to allowing the landlord to lead that negotiation on your behalf, because you're going to end up with a deal that's landlord focused and not with your interests covered.
Right. And so let's talk about negotiate. What is up for I mean, in my world, anything is up for negotiation, but with commercial real estate, what are some examples that someone may be able to successfully negotiate?
Okay, so we've got generally the big 3 that we're always talking about are the financial categories. Okay, number 1, you've got your rent. Rent is always negotiable in a location. Number 2, you have your tenant improvement allowance. This is money that's provided to us from the landlord to do certain things to set up our space for our business. Maybe we have to put in a bathroom. Maybe we have to ventilate the HVAC or the air conditioning unit. Maybe we've got to put in new floor. Maybe we've got to fill in a dirt area in the back where the landlord has left what we call a cutout. These are all costs that we want the landlord to compensate us to provide in his space. So we'll always negotiate that second thing, which is tenant improvement. And then the third is free rent. We should always get some time from when we sign the lease until we start paying rent, because most clients do not go in, take a key, and then put up a sign that day and they're open for business. It can take us as long as 6 to 8 months to build out a space, depending on the use. It always takes at least 100 days or so to build out a space. So we want to make sure that we're not paying rent and general contractors and subs and all of that while we are building out our space. So we're always going to negotiate for those 3 things. Now, in addition to that, our general letter of intent is going to cover things like, what happens if you want to assign this business? If you want to take this business and sell it to a larger multi-unit operator within your brand, how do we handle that lease? Because you're on the lease. If that is given away to another business owner, you need to be able to figure out how that is handled. So we'll negotiate to try to get assignment rights or subleasing rights. We'll
Mm,
also try to make sure that we have proper HVAC for our business. It might be that we have 1 ton per 300 square feet of HVAC, but for a restaurant with a bunch of ovens doing a Capriati sandwich shop, making all those turkeys, we need 1 ton per 150 square feet. So we're going to make sure that we're going to negotiate the right amount of delivery for our clients. So in many cases, we might accept the tenant improvement that the landlord's offering, but I'll say, okay, your delivery landlord doesn't have HVAC on the roof. Well, I know that's going to cost my clients a lot of money. So maybe I'll push to have the landlord provide the HVAC on the roof, and that might save my client $35,000. So we're
wow.
going to negotiate all of those items. So, is there a grease trap? Those are things that I have to think about all the time about each space that maybe my clients haven't really experienced. So if there's not a grease trap, that might cost my client $15,000 to install. Well, they're not going to be real happy with me if I don't tell them they're going to spend $15,000 that they don't know they're going to spend. So
Right.
these are things that we'll make sure that in negotiations we're going to review and we're going to fight for.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. And, I tell all my candidates, you can use outside advisement. You should use outside advisement for certain things, but make sure you're choosing the right advisor. Right? Because, um, so are you solely working on behalf of the tenant?
Yes. And
And
so
that's
that's
what your
one thing that's
organization
very
does?
unique with us. And that's a very good topic you bring up. So we are what is known as a tenant only commercial real estate firm. I have never worked for a landlord. I don't work with landlords. You will never drive around any town in the United States of America and see a sign that says Ty Brewster as the listing agent on a commercial property. In commercial real estate, that is a very common thing that an agent like myself would work with both landlords and tenants. And so it would be, I describe it as hiring your ex-wife's divorce attorney to handle your divorce. That's a mess, right? You need to have somebody who has your back and not the back of the landlord. So that's one of the main values that we bring to the table for our clients, is that we are focused just on their needs, and we do not report to or work for the landlord. We work only for them. And so if we need to go to bat and go to battle with the landlord, we will do that. And we're not concerned with being in a quote unquote job interview with the landlord, because we want them to give us their business to lease out their spaces all around Phoenix here. We're focused on just supporting our clients that are the tenants.
Right. Yeah.
You
I think
should never have an agent or a broker that represents your adversary in that transaction. And that happens all the time in commercial real estate. And it's really costs tenants a significant amount of money.
Yeah, so be careful when you are talking to a commercial broker, really where their loyalty is going to lie.
That's exactly right. You want to make sure that they are loyal to you and that they are not loyal to the landlord or landlords that you're going to be negotiating against. And it's not uncommon that somebody comes in and an agent in Los Angeles will say to them, look, you could see my name. I'm listed on all these properties. I know exactly what's available. I know exactly what these landlords will accept. Well, if they know that, it's because they have a relationship with that landlord. What are they telling the landlord? They're
Right.
telling the landlord, hey, I just got this guy. He's going to come in. I'll put him in your building and we'll be able to get a good rent out of him. I mean, that's not the kind of relationship you want with your advocate. I am your advocate, not the advocate for the landlord.
Yeah, that's that should be unethical, actually.
It is unethical. And in fact, I can talk about lawsuits that have happened and issues that have happened, but it is not illegal. I believe it's unethical, but it's not illegal. And
That's a shame. Yeah. Yeah.
many
So
agents do that.
yeah, so you just have to really be on your toes and make sure, and hopefully you've also, spoke to other franchisees when you're doing your due diligence through validation and asking them, how was the real estate process? Who did you use? How did that go? Did you get free rent? Because you can learn a lot from the people that have gone before you. So location, location, location. What are some important things to know? Obviously, the franchisor, hopefully a good franchisor, is collaboratively working with the franchisee. The franchisor is not going to want someone to go into a location that's not going to meet the demographics, that's not going to have the foot traffic, that's not going to have the surrounding businesses that are going to create the proper synergy. So, what are some things to really make sure and be aware of on your location? I mean, obviously, like parking. If parking is a hot mess, forget it. What are some other things, Ty?
So you certainly want to be in an area with good traffic. So you want other like-minded business owners in and around you, right? If you are a child's daycare and you're going into a building and there's a tattoo place next door, that's probably not the right kind of traffic that you're looking for. So it's important to not only look at the space that you're looking at, but also what's around you. Who are the customers that are driving in front of this business? Who's stopping and going to the business next door? Are there anchors that'll continue to draw people to this area that are in the income category that you need them to be, right? So, and that's going to be different for every brand, right? A Church's Chicken is going to go into different areas than a Five Guys Burgers and Fries. They've got different models and they have a different customer base. So you need to understand your customer base and you need to go where your customers are traveling on a regular basis and where it's easy to get to you. You need to have good visibility, depending on your brand. You need to have good parking availability, depending on your brand again. And you need to make sure that you are going to be a safe place for your customers to go. So for example, if you go to a center and you're doing let's say you're doing a massage location, right? And you're going to be open doing massages till 9 p.m. Well, that's after dark. If you've got a center and you go and visit them at 8:30 and there's no lights in the parking lot and you're asking a lot of women to go here at 8 o'clock at night and to feel safe getting out of their car, you might need to rethink what you're doing, right? If there's a biker bar in the center down the street, I mean, that can be problematic, right? That you do not want to give your clients any excuse to not use you and to use the competitor.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be aware of what you're doing. Now, you can't control all of that, but you can certainly control the type of area that you're going to. And sometimes you're making a decision about cost when it's better to make a decision about accessibility, location. If you're going to pay an extra $400 a month for a space, but it's going to be able to get you an extra 20% of your customer base, that's a smart investment all day long. It's not all about getting the cheapest rent.
Right. Yeah. And your compensation, is it through the landlord or how does that work?
Yeah. So just like if anyone's bought a house, we have in the United States a real estate model where listing agent will sign an agreement to get paid a commission based on leasing a space for the landlord. And they have an agreement to share that with me if I bring a willing and active tenant.
Excellent.
And so we work through the agreements that are already in place on all of these buildings all around the country. And we get that compensation through those local broker leasing agents.
Right. Excellent. So, do you happen to have any kind of free offering, maybe 10 tips to look for when you're out shopping for the home of your new retail-based business that you could offer those tuning in?
Yeah. We have a couple of things we can offer. So number one, one of the unique offerings that we have as a brand is that I'm partnered with 8 Stanford engineers who do cell phone reporting. So if you could imagine, this cell phone is tracked on different apps all the time. We have taken 200 million of these, and we have identified the psychographic category that is attached to. And then we track those, every movement that they make throughout the day and night. So we provide our clients, our franchisors, with a real estate model that will allow them to find where their client is based on their existing locations and who is going into those existing locations with their cell phones.
Very cool.
So if we have franchisors out there, or you're with the franchisor that needs this kind of support, we provide that at no cost to the franchisor. And by virtue of that, we can provide that to the franchisee. If your franchisor does not use our services on the reporting side, we can still provide you individually with reporting to let you know for a specific space, who's going into that space, who's driving by that space, who's looking at those signs, based on this cell phone travel information that we receive on a weekly basis.
Very, very cool. Very cool. That's awesome.
And that's really, we have 2 sides of the business. So I'm on the commercial real estate side. We're what you would look at as a traditional broker, although we are tenant only, which is unique in retail real estate. But on the reporting side, they do some great work, and we're happy to share that at no cost with any clients that come to us. And we'd love to show you what we can do.
Very awesome. Well, Ty, thank you so much. You are a wealth of information, and any of you out there that are looking for a location or with a franchisor that doesn't have this level of sophistication, certainly you should get in touch with Ty Brewster and locate and see if they can help you out. Thanks again for participating.
Very good. I appreciate your time, and look forward to talking to all of you on this call very soon as you need my help.